Hey folks, so I'm going to talk about why I thought I was an INTP when I am actually an INFJ. And I've come across some information that said people, they admire their tertiary function, and mine is introverted thinking. And so I mistook introverted thinking to be my dominant function, which is an INTP's dominant function. So there's this apparent admiration for your tertiary function, so that's one reason I made a mistake. Another reason I made a mistake was because I didn't feel like I was particularly good at socializing or being a kind of social friendly person, and my definition of extroverted feeling was not properly understood. And also another thing is that people tend to overlook their auxiliary function, which is extroverted feeling for me. And so I kind of overlooked this function and was mainly working with introverted intuition and introverted thinking. So I didn't really have a kind of respect for extroverted feeling, even though that's one of the functions, that's one of my top two functions, so that would definitely help me a great deal. So I assumed that extroverted feeling must have been my last function, like an INTP, and introverted thinking I thought would be my dominant function. So it was all mishmashed, and it's also, I noticed that it's hard to understand what people mean by my dominant function, which is introverted intuition. When I hear people explaining it, it's kind of a mysterious function in general, and I'm not always really positive what people are talking about. So what I gather now from the bit of research that I've done and me trying to find out what's going on, that introverted intuition is actually kind of a chronicling of patterns, I think. And it's a very basic definition, but a chronicling of abstract patterns, in a similar way that introverted sensing is a chronicling of data and the kind of practical, very introverted sensing type thing would be something like statistics or something like that. When introverted intuition is more of a chronicling of patterns, of seeing. I notice that when I do research, a lot of times I'll just research as much as I possibly can, contradicting viewpoints and everything, and then I look for the patterns within all of that data. So I think that's one way that maybe introverted intuition works. I'm not positive. I'm working on it. But I know some people, they go to their introverted intuition and they kind of rely on that without actually looking at data at all. And of course that's not smart to do. But yeah, you notice trends, you notice patterns, you notice like a succession of events and the implications. That's why, like, a lot of my humor, in things that I find funny, the humor is really in the subtext, because it's when I'm watching something and I find it funny, it makes me think of something else that is kind of unrelated, but it's kind of a subtext. It's like kind of an overlay on the humor that I'm watching. So yeah, it's just me rambling here, but that's why I think I mistyped. I was mistyped. Not to mention that the test gave me INTP, and so yeah, these kind of biases, that respect we have for our tertiary function and the lack of respect we have for our second function. So that's what kind of mixed me up and made me think my tertiary function was my dominant function and that my second function was my last function. And I didn't have a proper understanding of introverted sensing and extroverted intuition. Otherwise, I would have known that I don't have those functions. So yeah, that's just a short video on my thoughts about it. Alright.